Okay, so we're starting chapter 9 of Judges today, which is on page 232 in this book. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. So we just read about Gideon, the judge Gideon, and his exploits in being able to defeat the Midianites, and then of course, as verse 33 says on 231, came to pass as soon as Gideon was dead, that the children of Israel again went astray after the Baalim and made Baal breathe their God. And the children of Israel remembered not the Lord their God who had delivered them, neither showed they kindness to the house of Yerubbaal, according to all the goodness which he had shown unto Israel. So, what have you done for me lately? As soon as this great judge and military leader dies, they go back to their wayward path. So,
I was wondering,
Yeah.
the Gideon Society, which puts Bibles, both
oh
the
yeah, I
Jewish
don't know.
Bible and the New Testament in hotel rooms, is that just because they feel Gideon was a
I don't
right?
know who it's named for. I don't know
Oh,
if
I
it's
thought
named for
it.
this Gideon. I really don't know. I don't. It'd be. Let's.
I'm
Somebody
pretty
can
sure it
Google
is.
this. Somebody
Yeah,
can Google this offline about the history of that and who it's named for.
I believe I did, and it is.
Oh,
I guess I'm just what, so you don't know if I mean, the reasoning is obviously
why
because
they choose Gideon as opposed to Elijah or anybody else or Deborah, anybody else who brings the people back to God. Don't know why Gideon. So okay, chapter 9. So let's read the first 5 sentences. Vayelech Avim. Yes,
Gideon
Bess.
Society is named after this Gideon.
Okay, does it say why?
Nope.
Okay, okay. Vayelech Avimelech ben Yerubbaal Shechema el Ache Imo. Vayedaber Aleihem ve'el kol mishpachat beit Avi Imo lemor. So we have to remember Gideon yes, in verse 30 of the previous chapter, it says that Gideon had 70 sons. Okay? And he had a concubine that was in Shechem, who also bore him a son, and he called his name Avimelech. So we have to remember that. So now this Avimelech here is the Avimelech we just read about in verse 31 of the previous chapter. Okay, so Avimelech, son of Yerubbaal. Remember, Gideon is also known as Yerubbaal. Avimelech, son of Yerubbaal, went to Shechem to the brothers of his mother. To the brothers of his mothers, and he spoke of his mother, and he spoke to them and to all of the family of his mother's father, saying. So he goes to Shechem, where his uncles are, and the family of his grandfather. Okay? 2. Dabruna be'oznei kol ba'alei Shechem, ma tov lachem, hameshol bachem shiv'im ish, kol b'nei Yerubbaal, imeshol bachem ish echad, uzachartem ki atzmechem uvesarchem ani. So speak into the ears of all it says here, the men of Shechem. I think the noblemen of Shechem. What would be better for you? Would 70 men who are the sons of Yerubbaal to rule over you, or one man to rule over you? And remember that I am your bone and your flesh. So in other words, one of the 70 children of Gideon wasn't chosen to be the next judge or prophet in Israel. So Avimelech says, here I am. I'm a son of Gideon or Yerubbaal. What's better for you, 70 of them or me? And I also am his son, and I'm your stepbrother, but I'm a son from a different mother, but a son of the same father, right? A concubine of Yerubbaal. I'm offering myself up as opposed to my 70 stepbrothers. 3, Vayidabru achei imo alav ba'oznei kol ba'alei Shechem et kol hadvarim ha'ele vayet libam acharei Avimelech ki amru achinuhu. So the brothers of his mother said about him into the ears of all the noblemen of Shechem, all of these things that Avimelech said, and their heart tended toward Avimelech because they said, he's our brother.
Half brother, not stepbrother.
Doesn't matter, says he is our brother. The people of Shechem said about Avimelech, he's our brother, meaning he's from Shechem, we're from Shechem, he's our brother. Not literally, but he's one of us. He's from Shechem. 4, Vayitnu lo shiv'im kesef mi beit Baal Brit, Vayiskor bahem Avimelech anashim rekim ufochazim vayelchu acharav. So they gave him 70 pieces of silver from the house of Baal Brit. Remember, that's the Baal god that the people of Israel are following now. So they gave him consecrated money, that's Baal Brit money, 70 pieces of silver. And Avimelech used that to hire 70, it says here, vain and light fellows who followed him. So he was able to hire a mercenary force with this money from the people of Shechem and from Baal Brit. Okay, it doesn't say how many he hired, but Anashim Rekim. In Hebrew, rake means empty. So no good nicks. And not necessarily bad, it's just that they're not worthy people. 5, Vayavo Beit Aviv Afrata, Vayaharog et Echav b'nei Yerubbaal, Shivim ish al even achat, Vayivater Yotam ben Yerubbaal hakaton ki nechba. So then he went, with these vain and light fellows, he went to his father's house in Ophrah, and he killed his brothers, the sons of Yerubbaal, all 70 of them, on one stone, whatever that means, like decapitated them, kind of picturing Game of Thrones and how...
The 70 that just gave him the power?
No, these are, back in verse 30 of chapter 8, Gideon had 70 sons. 70 is 70. These are not, they don't live in Shechem. So it doesn't tell us, it doesn't tell us how many people of Shechem voted for Avimelech. Okay, so we have to remember from chapter 8, Gideon has 70 sons, plus one, this Avimelech, who's a son of a concubine. Where they live, we don't know. We just found out in this verse that they live in Ophrah, where their father, Gideon Yerubbaal, lived. Avimelech, chapter 9, decides he wants to be in charge because he thinks he's worthy. So he goes to Shechem where he's from, and asks the people of Shechem to vote for him. Who's better, the 70 stepbrothers or me? So Shechem votes for him and said, you're one of us. You're like a brother to us. So they give him 70 pieces of silver. He hires a force, and he goes to Ophrah, wherever that town is, and kills all of his stepbrothers. And the rest of the verse that I read is, but one was left behind, Yotam, the son of Yerubbaal. He was the youngest. He was left behind because he was hidden. So he killed 69, not 70. Yotam was missing. He was hiding. Okay, so Avimelech kills his stepbrothers as a show of force to ensure that he can stay in charge. But one goes, he missed one who was hiding. Okay, so let's look at the commentary on these 5 sentences. Back to 232, that this chapter does not begin with the usual formula, and the children of Israel did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, is accounted for by the circumstances that the subject of the narrative was not a judge raised by God in response to the cry of the oppressed people. It was an upstart who established his rule by violence. Okay, so in other words, the commentary, the editor is just pointing out this is straying from what had been so far the pattern of how we get introduced to the next judge. Okay, so this judge, if we call Avimelech a judge, we're not sure yet because God hasn't chosen him, is different in that he's taking power into his own hands. Okay, so it goes on. The leaders of Shechem were persuaded by Avimelech to set aside the claims of Gideon's other sons and proclaim him ruler. With the help of money obtained from the treasury of the heathen shrine, he hired a band of vain and light fellows and killed all the sons of his father except the youngest, who escaped by hiding. Okay, so that's what we just read. Avimelech, he was the son of Gideon's concubine, chapter 8, verse 31, and his right to succeed his father was inferior to that of his half-brothers. Usually you don't take a concubine's son to become the next ruler. It has to be a full-fledged wife, a full-fledged wife's son. Yerubbaal, this name is perhaps used throughout this chapter with the deliberate intention of emphasizing the irony of the situation. The son of the hero, whose name betokened the defeat of Baal from when we met him in chapter 6, raised himself to power with the aid of men who worshipped it and with money that came from its shrine. Went, presumably from his father's house at Ophrah. Like, where did Avimelech go from to get to Shechem? Where was he? Shechem, this being his mother's town, chapter 8, verse 31, he could count on the support of his Canaanite kinsmen. Mother's brethren, that is the nearest relatives. His mother seems to have belonged to a Canaanite family of influence. House, like family, the father's house was a distinct unit in the social composition of a tribe or people in the ancient world. 233, 2, this verse reveals that Avimelech's accession to power was not due to popular choice, based upon his personal qualifications, but was the result of intrigue. Men, literally lords, perhaps free men or citizens. It cannot be said with certainty whether they were Canaanites or Israelites. Both views have much in their favor, but Avimelech's claim to be of their own flesh and blood, in contrast to the other sons of Yerubbaal, lends support to the former. 70 persons, as recorded in chapter 8, verse 30. The purpose of his remark was, if the leadership passed into the hands of Yerubbaal's numerous sons, the effect was sure to be dissension between them with harmful consequences to the people. One ruler was surely preferable to a large body of rulers. We have no indication that Avimelech's initial plan was to murder his brothers. Your bone and your flesh, in modern parlance, your flesh and blood. being half Canaanite, he insinuated that it was in their interest that they should support him. Spoke of him, Avimelech's kinsmen used his argument when they discussed the matter with their fellow townsmen. Our brother, Avimelech, was related to all the inhabitants of Shechem. I don't know. I think it's just more metaphorical. He's one of us. He's from our town. 4, 70 pieces of silver. In itself, not a large amount, but it's an indication that the shrines in those days possessed treasuries to which devotees made contributions. Some of the heathen sanctuaries in ancient times were depositories of vast wealth. The Temple of Solomon, too, had its treasury. See 1 Kings chapter 7. The riches so accumulated were often put to uses for which they were never intended by the donors. See 2 Kings chapter 16. So the misuse of funds, of temple funds. They were also at times a center of attraction for the greed of foreign conquerors. Abarvanel explains that they gave Avimelech the 70 shekels to suggest that his 70 brothers be slain, which they were. Others explain that this equals the tribute everyone would have had to pay to each of Gideon's sons. Now they would give it all to Avimelech. So, in other words, trying to make sense of the 70, who knows? It could be just the typical idea of the number 70 in the Bible. So, Baal Brit, see on chapter 8:33. 234, vain, literally empty. Mitsudat Sion renders devoid of virtues. It is usually understood as men with idle hands, empty stomachs, and a disinclination to earn an honest livelihood. Yiftach gathered a similar ban, that's chapter 11. Da'at Mikra interprets it as men devoid of family ties and property. Light. So this word is pochazim in Hebrew. Rashi explains that they were precipitate men who acted upon impulse without reflection. Kimchi regards them as people moving from place to place to earn a livelihood. According to variant versions of the Targum, it means licentious, cowherds, or contemptible. So these are, like I said before, no-goodniks, who followed him, acting as his bodyguard and prepared to obey his orders, whatever they might be. Upon one stone, they were all in the house together, mourning their father's death. Right? The chapter 8 ended with Gideon's death. So perhaps if this is happening right after, they could still be sitting Shiva. They were all in the house together mourning their father's death, or they were together deciding how to divide the judgeship. Da'at Mikra explains that Avimelech took his brothers completely unawares. Since they had no intention to compete for the leadership, they were not on guard against him. Was left of the 70, though not excluded from the number, it's still correct to speak in round numbers of 70 slain. Okay, so let's look at ancient Israel on this. Yes.
So nobody makes, none of the commentators make any reference to this. This is Shechem, which has a kind of clouded, dark history biblically.
Yeah, I don't know. Right. The rabbinic, apparently our text is not quoting any rabbinic commentary that makes a connection to the story in Genesis of the rape of Dinah and Jacob's sons, Shimon and Levi, going and slaughtering all the men of Shechem. Yeah, we're just supposed to remember that as we read the Bible as one whole piece of literature, as opposed to separate pieces of literature just strung together, right? So the reader is supposed to make that connection. Do the rabbis make the connection? Well, we didn't see it in the commentary presented here. That doesn't mean that the rabbis didn't. I'm not up on Midrash on the book of Judges to be able to say, oh yeah, the commentary here forgot about this particular comment. So I don't know. I guess because like
the men all agreed to circumcision. They were all slain. And then, but weren't, I mean,
Yeah,
that
but
was where the story, that's where
these
the
the
story
men of
ends.
Shechem here are not slain.
Yeah.
It's
No, I'm
Avimelech's
talking about in the original
brothers.
story, they were because they
No,
were
no,
all,
but I'm saying, yeah, the people who are killed are Avimelech's brothers, and they're not living in Shechem. What we have is the people of Shechem supporting Avimelech, so maybe it's retribution for what happened centuries ago in the town. So okay, so Israelites killed us, or sons of Jacob killed our ancestors. Now we're gonna kill the descendants of the sons of Jacob. Is that in their thought process? We don't know, but it's fair. It's fair to say, it's fair to make that connection. I'm just saying that the commentary here doesn't make reference to that, though it would be logical to do so.
it does seem that the stories just keep circling back,
Well, yeah,
back and back.
yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. That's for sure. Okay, so in ancient Israel, beginning on page 155, below the line, to his mother's brothers and to all the clan of his mother's patriarchal house. The initial base of support that he enlists is his relatives, first his uncles and then the larger clan. That one man should rule over you. His language takes us back to the proposal of Gideon's warriors that he rule over them, with the scoundrel Avimelech obviously assuming the opposite view from Gideon's about the advisability of monarchic rule. The house of Baal Brit, this is the local pagan temple. One should keep in mind throughout this story that the principal actors are Canaanites, not Israelites, and that Avimelech, though his father was an Israelite, shows no allegiance to the people or the God of Israel. On one stone, this detail, which is repeated in the story, suggests an execution-style killing. First he captures and fetters his brothers, then murders them one by one, probably either by stabbing or beheading. Probably meaning that the brothers watched while this was happening, right? Kind of knowing what's in store for them.
Could it possibly be that the stoning we read once was pushing off a cliff onto stones?
That's how the rabbis say it's done, yes.
Could it be that he pushed them off all into one place?
Don't know. Don't know. It says he killed his brothers on a stone.
And
What does that mean? We don't know.
the commentary that you don't have on in your version
Yeah.
says, wait a minute, gotta go back to it. He says, when blood is shed upon stone and not on earth, which can absorb it, it is an indication that the murderer is completely reckless and without thought of God who avenges the crime. So if all the men fell on stone and were not covered by earth, then it's very un-Jewish,
Uh-huh.
what it's saying. But that's how I pictured it. It's faster and he had helpers
Uh-huh.
and pushed.
Well, I think the purpose of that commentary is to I'm looking at it on so this is the older edition. That's like the original edition of our text. That it's more of a sense of the rabbi's commentary on the pagan, un-Israelite, un-Torah man that Avimelech is. And the newer edition doesn't really focus on it in the same way. Yeah, so yeah, it's just interesting that that the updated edition just totally updates the commentary. Yeah. Okay, let's read the next few sentences. I'm looking to see where the next break is.
That was it for altar?
That was it for altar on the section that we read. Yeah. So now let's do 6 through 21. Vayeasvu kol ba'alei Shechem, v'chol beit Milo, vayelchu vayamlichu et Avimelech, lemelech, im Elon mutzav asher b'Shechem. So all these noblemen of Shechem gathered, and all of Beit Milo. Why this town is introduced here, we don't know. We haven't come across it before. And they went and made Avimelech king. They set him up as king by the terebinth of the pillar that was in Shechem. 7, Vayagidu liyotam, Vayelech vayamod berosh har grizim, vayisa kolo vayikra, vayomer lahem, shimu elai ba'alei Shechem, vayishma aleichem Elohim. So they told Yotam, and he went, we don't know who the they is, but people told Yotam about what Avimelech, who just murdered his brothers, did. He became king. So Yotam heard this, he was told this. He goes and stands at the top of Har Grizim. The Har Grizim is next to the town of Shechem. We're told in the Torah that the blessings and curses are supposed to be told to the people on the mountains of Har Grizim and Har Eval, Mount Grizim and Mount Eval, which are next to Shechem. 6 tribes on one, 6 tribes on the other, as the Kohanim recite the blessings and curses. So it's from the book of Deuteronomy, and I believe that Joshua reenacted that back in the book of Joshua that we read several weeks ago. Okay, so he goes to the top of Mount Grizim, and he lifts up his voice, like in other words, the equivalent of having a bullhorn or a megaphone or something like that. And he called out and said to them, "Listen to me, O noblemen of Shechem, and that God may hearken unto you." So he goes on, 8, Haloch halchu ha'etzim, limshoach aleihem melech, vayamru lazayit malcha aleinu. So this is an unusual verse. The trees went forth to anoint a king over them, and they said unto the olive tree, Vayomer lahem hazayit. Let's just be patient for a little bit here, because this is unusual. Vayomer lahem hazayit, hechedalti et dishni asher bi, yechabdu Elohim va'anashim, v'halachti lanua al ha'etzim. But the olive tree said to them, should I leave my fatness, seeing that by me they honor God and man, and go to hold sway over the trees? 10, Vayomru ha'etzim l'te'ena l'chi'at malchi aleinu. So in other words, Yotam is talking this parable from the top of the mountain. Trees went and chose, go to the olive tree. You should rule over us. And the olive tree says, am I supposed to stop producing olives to rule over the trees? So the Vayomru ha'etzim l'te'ena l'chi'at malchi aleinu. So the trees went to the fig tree, and you should rule over us. 11, Vatomer lahem ha'te'ena hechedalti et motki v'et tenuvati hatova v'halachti lanua al ha'etzim. So the fig went, the fig said to them, should I withhold my sweetness and my good fruit to go to sway over the trees, to rule over the trees, right? And I got work to do. Olive tree said, I got olives to produce. The fig tree says, I got sweet figs to produce. 12, Vayomru ha'etzin la gefen, lechiat malchi aleinu. So the trees went to the vine, the grapevine. I would call it a grapevine. It just says here the vine. So, right, because when we say Kiddush, we're Borei Pri HaGafen, right? So Gafen is grapevine. So they went to the grapevine. You should rule over us. Not exactly a tree. Kind of looks like trees, the way they are set up in vineyards, but not really as majestic as an olive tree or a fig tree, if anybody have seen either one of them. They can be big, they spread out. Vine tree, a vine fig, a grapevine has to be pruned, and it's not as majestic. Vatomer 13, Vatomer lahem hagefen, hechadalti et tiroshi, hamisameach Elohim va'anashim, v'halachti lanua al ha'itzim. So the grapevine says, should I stop my wine that makes God and people happy? Right, that cheers, it's translated here as which cheers God and well, people. And should I go to sway over the trees? Okay, Vayomru kol ha'itzim el ha'atad lech ata meloch aleinu. So all the trees went to the bramble, kind of like a thorn bush. You should rule over us. 15. Vayomer ha'atad el ha'itzim, im be'emet atem moshchim oti lemelech aleichem, bo'u chasu betzili, v'im ayin tetzei esh min ha'atad vatochal et arzei halevanon. So the bramble says to the trees, if truthfully you are anointing me as king over you, come and find shade under me, or take refuge in my shadow. And if not, that is, if you're not really anointing me, then fire should come out of the bramble and should consume the cedars of Lebanon. The cedars of Lebanon are like the redwoods of California. Okay, so bramble, lowest kind of thing, right? So it goes from the olive tree to the fig tree to the grapevine to the thorn bush. So majestic to least majestic and most lowly. So the lowly thorn bush is saying, if you're not really choosing me, then fire's going to come out of me and I'm going to burn down the cedars of Lebanon. 16. Ve'ata im be'emet uvetamim asitem v'tamlichu et Avimelech ve'im tova asitem im Yerubal ve'im beito ve'im ki gemul yadav asitem lo. I'm going to keep going because it's a continued sentence. Asher nilcham avi aleichem vayashlech et nafsho mineged vayatzel etchem miyad midyan. I'm going on because it's a continued sentence. V'atem kamtem al beit avi hayom v'tahargu et banav shivim ish al even echat v'tamlichu et Avimelech ben amato al ba'alei Shechem ki achichem hu. So I'll stop here, these three sentences. And now, so he starts with this parable. So in other words, Avimelech is this thorn bush, and he has the power to consume the cedars of Lebanon. In other words, he's a dangerous person that the people of Shechem just made king. So he's saying, and now if in truth and in sincerity, you did this and made Avimelech king, and if you did good by Yerubbaal and his house, and according to the goodness of his hands, you did this. In other words, if you think you did well by Yerubbaal by doing this, and who is this Yerubbaal? He's reminding them that my father fought for you, and he gave up his life. No, and vayashlech et nafsho mineged. So he it's translated that he adventured his life. He risked his life and saved you from the hand of Midian. And you have risen against my father's house today and killed his sons, 70 of them, on one stone, and you have set up as king Avimelech, the son of his concubine, on the lords of Shechem, because he's one of you. 19, Ve'im be'emetu v'tamim asitem im Yerubbaal v'im beito hayom hazeh simchu ba'Avimelech v'yismach gam hu bachem. So if truthfully and sincerely you did this with Yerubbaal and his house today, rejoice with Avimelech, and he should rejoice with who? With you. Ve'im ayin Teitzei eish me Avimelech v'tochal et ba'alei Shechem v'et beit Milo v'teitzei eish mi ba'alei Shechem umi beit Milo v'tochal et Avimelech. So, if not, if you haven't done this all, understanding that you want to do good by Yerubbaal. So in other words, remember what my father did. You put up this guy, but you're supposed to be good by my father. And remember, my father saved you all from Midian, saved us all from Midian. So if you think you're doing right by Yerubbaal, okay. But if not, that is by putting up Avimelech, but if not, verse 20, then fire will come out from Avimelech, and he will destroy, he will consume the lords of Shechem and of Beit Milo. So that's what will happen if you have not done right by Yerubbaal. So since they did not do right by Yerubbaal, fire went out from the men of Shechem and Beit Milo and consumed Avimelech. So they killed him on the spot after hearing what Yotam just said. 21, Vayanas Yotam vayivrach vayelech be'era vayeshev sham mibnei Avimelech achiv. So so he says that's what they should do, not that this is what was done. So that the people of Shechem should kill Avimelech because he's not doing right by my father. So after making this speech, Yotam flees to Be'er and dwelt there from fear of his brother Avimelech. Okay? So let's look at the commentary on all of this section. Back to verse 6 on 234. Beit Milo. Several explanations have been offered. Milo was the name of Avimelech's maternal grandfather. Beit Milo is identical with the Tower of Shechem mentioned in verses 46 and following, which we haven't read yet. It's a term signifying rampart because it consisted of walls filled in with rubble, stones, and earth. Milo, without Beth, occurs in 2 Samuel, verse 9, and elsewhere to denote a fortification. King Joash was murdered at a place called Beit Milo in 2 Kings. The name may, however, be of Canaanite origin. Okay. Terebinth of the pillar. Some commentators follow the Targum, the Aramaic translation, in rendering a plain in which there were pillars. According to one theory, it was the sanctuary of Shechem, a natural spot from which to proclaim a new king. This may have been the tree under which Jacob buried the idolatrous trinkets of his household, and there Joshua set up a monument as a witness. Apparently, a pillar stood beneath the tree. Okay, so it was a famous tree, kind of like the white oak in Y. Okay, there are these big trees around that have significance over the years. Okay, so now verse 7, top. Since the height of the mountain was over 900 feet above the valley, commentators consider it unlikely that Yotam stood on the summit. There is a triangular platform projecting from the mountainside, which overlooks the town and the valley, and it has been suggested that Yotam addressed the people from this natural pulpit. It has been pointed out that the voice of a person speaking on Gerizim can be distinctly heard both on Eval and in the valley in between. Okay, I guess people tested this to see if the voice could carry. The trees went forth. The parable has ever been a most effective means of arresting and holding the attention, not only of children and primitive peoples, but also of the mature minds of all generations. On a time, this is expressed in the Hebrew by the infinite absolute added to the finite verb. Okay, that doesn't matter. The olive tree, a particularly apt choice of metaphor for a scene set in the fertile valley of Shechem, where even today beautiful groves of olives flourish. Should I leave, etc.? The point of the reply is the unwillingness of really able men to abandon the tasks in which they are interested for rank and power. Honor God and man. The oil produced from the olive provided illumination in the tabernacle and the home, as well as the unguent used in anointing kings and high priests. The olive was also part of the people's diet. In other words, I serve a useful purpose already. I don't need to be king. Hold sway, literally sway. To the imaginative mind, the swaying of the tree in the breeze readily conjures up the picture of a monarch nodding approval of his subjects' actions. The preposition over favors this interpretation against the alternative stagger, shake, wander. Early commentators, however, render to wander because of the trees. My sweetness. The fig has a delicious sweetness both when fresh and dried. Fruitage, the Hebrew denotes produce and has been rendered crop. Kimchi in Shorashim explains it as the emerging of the fruits and vegetables and their development. The yield of the fig tree may be as much as 2 or 3 crops in a year. Wine, the noun used here, tirosh, is not always synonymous with yayin, the common word for wine. In Hosea 4, it's differentiated in the Hebrew and translated new wine. Kimchi interprets it as newly fermented wine, which people drink readily and become intoxicated. Yayin is the stronger aged variety. Cherith, with reference to God, the verb can only be regarded as a figure of speech. The Jewish commentators understand it to allude to the joy which God, so to speak, derives for the intonation of the appropriate psalms, which were sung over offerings in which wine played a part. Bramble, having failed to tempt the useful types, the trees, as a last resort, having failed to tempt the useful types, the trees, as a last resort, offer the crown to the lowest grade of plant, the bramble. It's found in the neighborhood of Shechem, clinging to the rocks. Yotam may actually have pointed to it as he spoke, so adding emphasis to his denunciation. If in truth, the bramble finds it hard to believe that the offer is made to it seriously, he therefore asks, if in truth, not in derision, you anoint me. In my shadow, put your faith in me and trust to my care. The irony must have been evident to those who heard the fable. The thought of the stately trees seeking protection beneath the contemptible bramble was an absurdity. Let fire come out. The dry and leafless thorn, useless in itself, was liable in the hot Mesopotamian summer to catch fire and set cornfields and forests ablaze. The cedars of Lebanon, the noblest tree in Palestine and one of the most famous in the world, the cedar presented a vivid contrast to the bramble. As a metaphor, it must have been extremely flattering to the leaders of Shechem. Now, application of the parable, the verse 16. The verse introduces a threefold protasis, followed in verses 17 and 18 by a parenthesis, in which the speaker drives home with bitter resentment the forgotten service rendered by Yerubbaal and the baseness of the ingratitude displayed by his former followers. Uprightly, sincerely, in good faith, the strong appeal to truth and sincerity evidences a conviction that eventually truth must triumph and divine retribution was a reality. Adventured his life, literally cast away his soul to a distance, as something of no consequence to him when the welfare of his people was involved. Have slain the men of Shechem by providing the means wherewith Avimelech hired the assassins or accomplices in the crime. He is your brother, see verses 2 and the following. If this resumes the protasis in the second half of the verse. Rejoice, there is a tone of sarcasm in the expression. But if not, and what Yotam now says is the truth, let fire come out from the men of Shechem, literally the same fire from Avimelech, which would consume his subjects. The belief in just retribution on the principle of measure for measure is here again illustrated. Be'er, there's no indication which of the many places bearing this name is intended. Some suppose it was Beersheba, a suitable place of retreat from the point of view of distance. Some suggest Be'erot, 3 hours' journey north of Jerusalem, and others again Kirbet el Bira, a village 8 miles north of Beit Sha'an. Okay, so let's see what Alter says about this whole thing. So we're on, there's not much commentary actually, bottom of 156, below the line, that is, the standing terebinth. Though this is a reasonable construction of the two Hebrew words, they look odd syntactically. Once upon a time, the Hebrew formula hayo haya signals the beginning of a parable. The attempts of some scholars to scan it as formal verse are unconvincing, but its rhythmic character and its use of stylized repetition with the 3+1 folktale structure set it apart formally from the surrounding narrative. 3+1, so olive tree, fig tree, grapevine, and then the bramble. Gladdens God and men. This might also justifiably be construed as gladdens gods and men, reflecting a mythological background in which the gods, as in Greek tradition, quaff wine. Come shelter in my shade. This, of course, sarcastic. The lowly thorn bush gives no shade. The argument of the parable works both against Avimelech, a low and prickly character, and against the institution of kingship. Only a nasty and unproductive type would aspire to the power of a king. A fire shall come out. It's in the nature of kings to broadcast destruction, as Avimelech has already done in murdering his 70 brothers, and as he will do much more extensively. In the last moments of his lethal career, he will in fact use fire as a weapon. The son of his slave girls, Yotam chooses a term of opprobrium for the concubine, just as Sarah does for Hagar in Genesis 21. So there's another word used to introduce Avimelech back in chapter 8, not the same word used here. So this is a not so nice term. So a slave girl as opposed to concubine. Okay, so that's all that Alter has for us. It's 10:21, so we'll stop here for today because there's too much here. We're not going to be able to finish the chapter anyway. we'll stop here for today. Next Friday, we will not have class, where it's during Passover. So we will meet 2 weeks from today. So that would be May 3rd will be the next time we meet. Hope everybody has a good Shabbat. Yes,
Children,
Bess?
what are we doing when we finish the book?
We'll keep on going, I assume, with 1 Samuel. Okay, so that means, well, we still have several chapters, so some time. We're not going to finish it. Our last Friday will be the Friday of Memorial Day weekend, and then we'll be off until September. So if you want to buy Samuel, I don't know how it comes, whether it's both Samuels and Kings together in one volume or separately. That's what we'll be studying next. But Ancient Israel includes Samuel and Kings in it, so we don't have to worry about a new one of these.
But we want to have the same commentaries as you
Yeah,
do.
we'd like to
Same-
try to buy the
Well, I have
same.
both. So I guess,
Just take a photograph of each and send it to us.
yeah, on my shelf, I have this older edition of Samuel. I don't have the new one of this. So I don't know what's available on Amazon. If the older one is available, that's what I have.
I know
So-
I have the older version.
You have the older version, right? But I don't
Yeah.
know if you look on Amazon now for the edition of Samuel. Let me see. On my shelf, it looks like.
I like to go on eBay.
Yeah, but I don't want you to spend too much money. This is what I have, so it is just called Samuel.
Mm.
So I
That's,
don't
is
know.
that what you will be using for the class?
Is that what I'll be using? Well, I'll go on Amazon, but so I'll do the recording. I'll send out the recording, and I'll send out
No rush.
I find on Amazon that's available for Samuel. Okay.
Right, yeah, that'd be good. And another question, is Wednesday's class also canceled next week?
Torah study, yeah, it's Yom Tov. So
Okay.
Tuesday and
That's-
Wednesday.
Second day.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
the following Wednesday is the day after the holiday, so we'll have Torah study then.
Okay.
The Jews and the News, the next 2 Mondays, we're not having Jews and the
Yeah.
Yeah, there should
Okay.
be nothing in the news anyway.
Yeah.
Halavai,
Nothing we want to hear.
right. All right,
Good Shabbos,
take care,
everyone.
everybody. Good
All right.
Shabbos, happy
Good
Passover.
Shabbat shalom.
All right.
Shabbat shalom.